Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land and hosted by me, Rolene Marks. And before we head off to the weekend, let's take a look at those top stories. Now, yesterday we brought you the story of Miloon Kothari, a Commission of Inquiry human rights investigator with the UN Human Rights Council. Now, as many of you know, the UN Human Rights Council has this Commission of Inquiry looking into Israel and the Palestinians, which effectively, in UNHRC speak, basically blames Israel for the conflict. Now, addressing a Mondevice podcast, Mondevice is a vehemently anti-Israel publication. Kothari is believed to have accused Jewish organizations, NGOs, and individuals of controlling social media, in that the response to the inquiry has been to challenge what the inquiry is setting out to do. He said that Jews control social media. Now, a spokeswoman for Prime Minister Yair Lapid, Karen Hajioff, has weighed in on it. She said that the racist comments by Kothari took us back to the darkest times of anti-Semitism, and that the UNHRC's Commission of Inquiry is a moral hypocrisy that should be disbanded. Now, Kothari's comments have drawn widespread condemnation, including from the US Special Envoy on Anti-Semitism, Deborah Lipstadt, as well as the USA's ambassador to the UNHRC, Michelle Taylor, who called the comments offensive, anti-Semitic, and also took aim at the UNHRC's disproportionate focus and obsession on the state of Israel. We will keep you posted if there are any developments around this story. This week we've been covering the issue with the Jewish agency in Russia. As you will know, having watched the Israel Brief, that Russia's Justice Ministry issued a ruling calling for the immediate cessation of the work by the Jewish agency in Israel. Well, today the first court hearing was underway in a Moscow court, and while the hearing barely lasted an hour, no real discussions were held. There is a date set for a second hearing that will take place on the 19th of August. Last night, the government delegation put together by the Prime Minister departed for Moscow to have talks with Russian officials. The members of the delegation include a representative from the Prime Minister's office, one from the Foreign Ministry, from the Justice Ministry, and from the Ministry of Immigration and Absorption. And of course, this is a story we are going to be following very, very closely. We are very concerned about the status for Russia's Jewish community. Now, yesterday, a very, very unusual event happened. The IDF released footage which shows exactly how terror organization Hamas embed themselves within their civilian infrastructure, effectively using their civilians as human shields. Now, this is something that Israel has been speaking about every time we have a flare-up or a conflagration with terror entities, that they fire their rockets, they store their weapons, they dig tunnels within civilian infrastructure. Now, this footage was released to the global media and shows exactly that weapons, munitions, facilities, factories, and tunnels have been built very close to civilian infrastructure, which has included the Islamic University, UNRWA schools and clinics, a mosque, a Pepsi factory, and various other civilian infrastructure. This is quite unusual for the IDF to release this kind of intelligence before any kind of conflagration. So it shows just how serious the IDF are at trying to put across not just the narrative of Israel, but the challenges that they face dealing with this kind of asymmetrical warfare. And yesterday we also brought you the story that the German federal government have agreed to compensation for the families of the 11 victims of the Munich massacre. The 11 Israelis who were brutally murdered by Palestinian terrorists during the 1972 Munich Olympics have been awarded compensation by the federal government. However, the families feel that the amount that has been allocated to them is greatly insulting. Ankie Spitzer, who is the widow of fencing coach Andre Spitzer, said that not only was it insulting, but basically the government had sent them away with just a little tip. Other members of the family said that it was quite traumatic and that they don't see themselves participating in the September the 5th commemoration, which incidentally is the 50th anniversary since the incident, until the financial issue is resolved. The government is now working with family representatives to come to an adequate amount that will be adequate compensation. But the question remains, like, how do you compensate for a life that has been lost? Germany says it's because of their special relationship with Israel that they are looking into righting the wrong of 50 years ago. So that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Don't forget, you can catch us again on Monday as we bring you those top stories making headlines. But if you miss us over the weekend, hey, don't worry, we're going to miss you too. You can check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook page is at Lottle's site. Give us a like, a follow, share our content. We are on YouTube at The Israel Brief. Please click on that red subscribe button. Let's get those subscriber levels going up. And we're on Twitter at LayOfTheLand5. And with that, we wish you all a safe, a peaceful, and a healthy weekend. Shabbat Shalom wherever you are. And don't forget that this is The Israel Brief, and I'm Rolene Marks, and I'll keep you company again on Monday.